So, one of the things we don't generally tend to talk about in the UK, partly because it's quite forgotten about, is the fact that we very, very nearly at one point, pre-World War II, we very nearly had a dictator, a fascist dictator even, by the name of a guy called Oswald Mosley, or to give him his full title, Baronet Oswald Mosley. Or is it I think it's Baronet... Yeah, it's Baronet Bernard Oswald Mosley, something like that, is his full name. Now, first of all, let's give context to what happens here, because there are a lot of quite interesting parallels between what was going on in the UK, Germany and Italy. Now, what you had there in those two countries was, again, two very big and populist fascist movements which gained control and gained power and basically managed to take over. They successfully formed their dictatorships. Now, Mosley, on the other hand, didn't get there. Why? Because literally the only reason he didn't actually get there was because Mosley didn't want to do it violently. That is the only reason that we narrowly avoided it, and he very well could have succeeded. Because again, you go back and you see what Mosley was doing, what his talks and speeches are, and you look at all the other movements we have today, from the EDL, PIGDA, BNP, any movement that is sort of associated with nationalism has literally been saying the exact same thing. Even to a lesser extent, UKIP has been using some of the same tactics, and that tactic is what we call fear of the other. Now, fear of the other is quite simple. You basically make people afraid by saying they are not like you. Something about them is different. They are other than you. And when this gets into people's head, all of a sudden, people find it incredibly easy to justify acts or bigotry, whatever, you name it, against this group of people. It's been demonstrated throughout history, and we go back to Mosley. Now, Mosley, his target was the Jews. Now, in recent times, it's all about Muslims. It's all, really, from about, September 11th, it's all been about the Muslims and the fact that they're the other in this, society, and particularly Muslim immigrants. Because, again, even immigrants themselves, they are the other. And again, it's a perfect example of, trying to otherize, shall we say, I don't even know that's a word, but yeah, otherize someone else. And we go back again to Mosley, because, again, all the things he was saying and all the things that people, his opponents, which, again, succeeded in stopping him from taking power. And even afterwards, remember, the British Fascist Party, I think that was the full, I can't remember what the full name of their party was now, but I think it was that, still was active after World War II. Not as strong as they were pre-World War II, but because we'd been through World War II and people had come to recognise, the atrocities and the outright, dictatorships that had occurred from fascism, he lost all his support. Now, the difference between certainly Mosley and the other guys that we've been talking about is that Mosley was actually very good politically. Before he formed his fascist party, he was part of the Conservative Party, and before that, he was highly, highly praised for a lot of his thoughts and initiatives, and even after that, even after World War II and going on for the rest of his life, a lot of people said that a lot of his when it came to sort of his economic policies and regards to sort of workers' rights were sort of bang on the money. The only problem was, certainly after that, he wanted a fascist dictatorship. You cannot escape that fact. So, and that was a lot of Mosley's draw, that he managed to gain the support. Now, a lot of these other parties and the modern sort of parties today, they do not have that element to them. None of them have been politically successful. None of them are really putting forward the good ideas to succeed. Now, here's a perfect example of an area where these parties do not succeed. Every one of them is against immigration. Okay, got that good. Are there legitimate problems with immigration? Yes, there are, and we'll give them that, because there are, and these problems do need sorting. Now, one of the big problems they have is that, when they come over here, they can't speak English. A lot of them can. Because why would you move to a country and try to get a job in a country where you can't speak the language? Sort of defeats the object. What company will hire you for that? Now, all their targets for their political support are from the what we call the working class. Now, the working class have two main political points which are always their political priority. Oh. Wait for the clock.
Is there anything they can't do?
There we go. So their two main political points are always and always have been housing and jobs. So long as a government or a party can pretty much provide that, they can pretty much rely on the vote from the working class. Now, along comes this other group. Again, this other part, these immigrants, these Muslim immigrants, these other people. And what do you have all of a sudden? They're competing for housing. They're now competing for your jobs. Now, the idea would tend to be integrate these people. Now, a lot of these people always bang on and complain that these people aren't integrating. But you have to ask yourself the question, what solutions are they offering to try and integrate people? Now, one of the things that happened because of the cuts a few years ago was a lot of the councils have had to cut English language teaching to these immigrants. And this has basically sort of almost locked them out, because now they have to go out and actually have to pay people to teach English. Now, if you're an immigrant and you've just come into the country, chances are you're not going to have a lot of money. So, again, this stops them from integrating as well as they possibly could. And, again, these are the problems that, we're, facing. Immigrants aren't the problem. Immigration has always been a good thing, bringing people over, even if they are not the best and the brightest. Because you look at the UK, the UK hotel industry is a prime example. Now, believe it or not, I have a friend, he's a manager at a Holiday Inn. Every single staff member there, probably bar a couple of people, pretty much are all immigrants. Why? Because in the UK, working at a hotel is not seen as a good career path or a good career prospect, even though it actually is. On the continent, on the other hand, where a lot of these people are coming from, it's perfectly fine. They see it as a good and valid career opportunity. And as a result, hotels cannot hire these people fast enough. Why? Because they will stay on, they will stay in position, and they are good workers. from from his mouth, if you hire someone from the UK or is British from the local area, chances are they are not going to be a good worker. They are not going to stay long. And when you look at even, I've been an employer. So who are you going to hire? And honestly ask yourself this question. Who are you going to hire knowing those facts? And this is a lot of the problem that we see, that a lot of the the dirty jobs, shall we say, and the undesirable jobs, immigrants tend to fill these jobs because they want to work and they want to fit in. This idea that they don't want to integrate is completely wrong. But if you think about this, think about outside immigration. People who emigrate to other countries in the EU, they move to areas where they know there are other UK people because they want to feel that it's a bit like home. So these people saying that there's all these areas of different ethnicities, people, then you can see why you would want to move to another area. It's not it's not that they don't want to integrate. It's that most of these people, their first language is always going to be their native language, and their second language is always going to be English. Now, you get onto the other things where you get the second generation appearing, and the second generation is where integration has been pretty much achieved, because chances are that child will grow up speaking English, going to school, and learning pretty much from the beginning English, and then they fully integrate. It's often the first sort of generation of these people where this problem tends to occur. Now, again, these all these parties never ever suggest a solution to it. Their only solution is, we got to stop immigration. We got to slow down, stop this immigration. Now, one of the things that's worth pointing out, a lot of the biggest source of immigration to this country, people often say, when you ask this question, oh, it's from Poland, they're from Africa, Syria, you name it. They don't actually name the biggest source for immigration to the UK is from Ireland. Now, all of a sudden, this destroys their argument. And this is what I'm talking about when you're talking about a problem from another. Because when you all of a sudden tell them this statistic that the biggest source of immigration is from Ireland, and it is natural sort of Irish-born citizens that are doing this, all of a sudden they're like, oh. Or they'll disagree with you, and you can show them the numbers. They don't care. If you don't believe me, go and look it up. Obviously, at the moment, there is a bit of a flux, given obviously the going refugee crisis. But historically, the biggest source of immigration has always been from Ireland, from natural-born Irish citizens. And again, why? And again, you've got to ask yourself this simple question: why do these parties have a problem with these people, these immigrants, when they are from Poland, wherever, you name it, but all of a sudden, Ireland, oh, no problem. And it's because there is a racist element to it. I'm sorry, you given what I've just told you, there is an incredibly racist element to it. And you go back a couple of 200 years, and you go back to America, and there was massive racism against Irish, and it's gone now, because again, the argument against the other has now basically been made against the Mexicans. So that's America's sort of otherizing, or Latinos, or But again, the same thing is, there is a large population of Canadians, people from the UK, people who are white, who emigrate over there and are able to speak English, who integrate very naturally. A large population of their immigrants are like that. And when you bring this up again, you have this problem with these people, and then your arguments pretty much apply to this same class of people that you don't have a problem with. So what's your problem with them, but you don't have the same problem with them? Because you have the same problems, your arguments still apply to this group you strangely don't have a problem with. So we have to ask, what's the question? And this is where the race element comes in. And I'm sorry, you cannot deny that there is a racist element to it. There is an amount of, bigotry to it. Why? Because, again, it all comes back to the fear of the other. And when you get political parties, and you're seeing it at the moment with Trump, his entire campaign has pretty much been proliferated by the fear of the other. And you look at, again, the far right movements who are solely against immigration. It's all fear of the other. And I'm sorry, there is a massive racist element to it. At the end of the day, there are legitimate problems that it can bring, but these parties are not suggesting legitimate solutions. Their solution is just stop it. And here's the thing: you cannot just put a stop to immigration. It's ludicrous to think you can think that. So again, fear of the other. Next time you hear someone, talking about Muslims, think of, what's their real problem? Because, again, going back to... we'll save this for another video. So, okay, so we've talked about fear of the other there in this video. So, what do you think? Am I right? Am I talking horseshit? Leave your comments down below. I'm sure there'll be a lively debate, not as usual. Yeah, like, comment, rate and subscribe.